Thank you, John. Thank you all for being here. Most importantly, thank you for all the work you do and the resources you put into our waters and protecting our environment, and especially now in these times for all the really sort of work we need to do to keep the momentum going. So thanks everybody for that. Also thanks Lincoln from Avid Max. Lincoln and I worked together at Avid Max for quite a while and became we have a lot in common. One of which is presentations. Thanks for putting this together. Yeah. So what I'm going to talk about today is backcountry safety. It's a perfect time to do this. It's June. Uh, everybody wants to get out and stretch your legs. The weather can be a little dicey. Fishing can be awesome. In fact, it can totally absorb you and carry you away. And what you need to do also is find your way back home safely. And so talk about backcountry safety. Many of you are very adept at creating skills and have, I'm sure, great stories and learnings that you've survived over the years, right? I've got a few funny ones I'll try and share. I'm still here. But also, I want to impress on you to think about others. When you're on the trail and you come across other fishermen or fisherwomen or hikers, think about the people you're with, your grandkids, your kids, your friends. There's a lot that goes into knowing what their capabilities are and also feeling confident that you can help them in times of real stress. So, yeah, I'll jump right into this. First thing I'm going to do is introduce myself. My name is Charles Gaughan. I'm a semi-retired healthcare professional living in Parker. I've lived here since 1973. I caught my first fish in Waterton Canyon. I was very impressed by all the authors. I am not Ernest Hemingway, but I did read his books, and I sure wish I looked like him. Um, I have kids who fish, and this is my daughter-in-law catching her first fish several years ago on the Platte. Um, and then I also wanted to share with you some recent fishing reports. I think it's nice to hear how things are going. So I threw a few pictures on here. I was in Arkansas for the Colorado for the last 5 days. It's going crazy up there. The stoneflies were attacking me. Um, Big, giant PMDs, spell-warning guns were everywhere. It, it was middle Colorado. Yeah, yeah, north of Rifle. Okay. But it was incredible, and the caddis were everywhere too. The little sedges. So um, it's just a great time. Also, the week before that, I spent 4 days up in San Cristos, and I can tell you that probably two-thirds of the lakes up there are ice out, and the fishing is tremendous. Really, really tremendous. So I know we're all excited to get out there, and really that's why I'm here in early June is to help remind all of us how to do this safely and get back home okay. I'm also a member of the Douglas County Search and Rescue Team, and so I want to introduce this team because this could be something you have to deal with. Hopefully not. But I want you to know what the resources are available in your community here in Douglas County, Arapahoe County, all of the counties here in Colorado, most of them have some kind of search and rescue. Ours is kind of one of the more elite. We are a mountain search and rescue credentialed, as well as urban search and rescue credentialed. So about half of our missions are here in the suburbs. There are a lot of missing kids that pop up from time to time. There are kids who are endangered. There are adults who may be somewhere on the spectrum or have other, disabilities, Alzheimer's, dementia. And we go and find those people and we get them home safely. We're called in on about 160 missions a year, and we get active in about 80 of those. So, there's about 55 of us right now. We're doing from 24 years old to 78, 79, I want to say. All kinds of roles. And they're not paid. So this is all volunteer work. All the members pay for their own gear. The county doesn't pay for, well, the county pays us for the gasoline for our command trucks. And that's kind of how that goes. So the rest is all grants and donations and charitable giving and philanthropy. I want to try and encourage you to encourage others you might know. Get on board with search and rescue. It's fun. It's exciting. If you're in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, this is this is something for you. We have teams that are technical who do rescues in winter. We do winter and as well as low rescues all year round, of course. There's it's hard and I was climbing around there, so we get a lot of action. Climbers, we also get a lot of action with ATVs. And so if you're good with a dirt bike or ATVs or snowmobiles or any of that stuff, this can be a great way to kind of use that skill and get out and help others. We also have drones, which are with the technology, drones are just now becoming kind of useful, identifying people. Drones, if you give if you take your phone and take a picture of a subject's article of clothing, even if you look up online to see your shirt listed on the private website, color of that shirt can be identified by technologies with a vast acreage. I mean, I probably a quarter mile by quarter mile. I take a picture. Technology can pick out maybe 20 different similar items, the exact same color, and we can find that person. We can also detect motion now. So it's gone beyond just kind of like heat sensing, night vision stuff. It's getting really cool. And we're always starting to find people in Douglas County within drones. Okay, so what could possibly go wrong? I see a few smiles around here. So let's maybe run through a few. These are the most common, and then we'll also talk about what can go wrong when you're flight fishing, besides just catching fish. But disorientation happens a lot. It happens when people get tired and exhausted, or they get very focused on their objective, whether it's running a 5K in the mountains or if it's catching X number of fish or certain species of fish. You get very focused and you forget to look around. And maybe you don't look around because you know the area really, really well. But things happen. These are never planned. These are things that you would be embarrassed to tell your friends happen to you, but they happen. I had an incident with San Vita Crystals just a week ago. My friend and I were halfway up, about 2 miles in. We had already clicked about 1,000 feet up. It was raining, sleeting, snowing. There was mud. There were rivulets on the stream. And we stopped to get our ponchos over us. The poncho, unfortunately, blended in with my surroundings. So when he got up from the rain, and I had told him, I'm going right up here, and I'm going to throw my poncho until the rain stops. He got packed up and went right by me, but he thought I had gone ahead. So he is zooming ahead. I see him walk past me. Now I have to catch up with him. He also has a little hard of hearing, so he didn't hear me yelling for him. These are simple, embarrassing things that happen. And that could have gone really wrong. In fact, he went until he got exhausted and we didn't get together for about an hour and a half. But at the time I was alone, it wasn't good. So I'll talk in a minute about gear, technology, maps, and those kind of things. Gravity versus human is probably the most common. Ankles are a big deal. So people will go up maybe on Dawson Beach, Spruce Mountain, somewhere really close. When I drop my kids off at soccer, and I'm leg to the top, and I got a quick ring, a power ball, and I'm good to go. Don't break your ankle. Ankles happen a lot at our age. You can't move. Okay, it may be 95 degrees. Maybe some weather's coming in. It becomes an emergency very fast. Even if the rain elevations can change, drop 20 or 30 degrees overnight, hypothermia happens all year round in this world, in our neighborhoods, especially if you have an injury or start getting into shock, any kind of trauma. So this is a big one. Logs, rocks, slippery rocks. Um, I- I've got lug nuts on my waders. I ran all year round. I just took one depot and screwed in some screws. Work for my. Um, Medical conditions. Search and rescue, when you do get folks who become exhausted late into they're on medications and the chemistry changes, and it's very, very bad. We also get folks who didn't take their antidepressants or anti-anxiety medicine. And we can find decisions being made that maybe aren't the best decisions at the moment when you're out and away from everybody else. Hypothermia, that's just a hypothermia and hypothermia. Yeah, I was disoriented when till the symptoms. Please don't forget that when you get overheated, you start getting the chills and you need to be covered with a blanket. Okay, because it has to do with shunting of blood. Um, I'm not an EMT, but I can tell you that those are two very serious conditions. I've had hypothermia myself. I had a volcano in Mexico at 17,000 feet. My lungs were bleeding and I looked like a strawberry shake coming out my mouth, right? I was irritated. This happened within about 6 hours from me hiking down to we spent the night to me being completely laid out. And so, just hours, this stuff can happen. Gear failure, I don't need to tell you about that one. If they're getting some gear, have you ever hiked through the canyon in the winter? Without brakes? That's your rod. It's good. Who choosing people? Now, when we tell someone you're going to go backpacking or even on a day hike to go find some fish somewhere, there are folks who think, well, what about the creatures out there? Are you scared of bears, cougars? Well, that would be bad. Uh, it's not on my hit list. I don't think we'll see it ever, if often, in search and rescue. Just don't do stupid things. Okay. And you know what those are. Okay, so one of the first things I would throw out there is if you're going fishing and you're going to grab your backpack and hike in however far, even just a mile or two, think of this as hiking. Don't think of it as fishing. Think of it as I'm going on a hike. I'm going to be prepared for what I need to do, move my body up there and back, be ready to go and get home and take a shower and go to bed. That's the hike part of it. The fishing is great. Catching fish is even better. Change your expectations just a little bit. My son used to get hyper focused on catching fish. So when he was about 8 years old, we stopped saying we're going fishing, we're going casting. It became wonder. It truly it changed the whole game for us. And we make each other's company. We have the beauty of the mountains. That's why we're there. And if we cut some fish, that's great. I think this is often overlooked, but please think of your objective. What you want to accomplish. When would you turn around? When would you say, you know what? It's not worth it. Whatever my objective was, it's not worth it. I should go back now. Think about that. Conditions and variables. Great. So when I was in the Sunday Crystals 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, rain, sleet, it's kind of like hail, snow, muddy trails, icy rocks, crusty lake. I thought out and I caught a ton of fish, but um, know what could happen, know what will happen, and research all of that. I always like to just call the either the Park Service or the National Forest Service. Those folks are working the trails all of the time, and they hear from all the folks using those trails. They call them first thing in the morning before they get out in the field and get the scoop. Road closures are really a bummer. Trail closures are a bummer. You drive all the way up there, and then maybe you end up going somewhere you're unfamiliar with, and it changes your plan. and takes you off scene. Every winter, my friend and I do a gear shakeout. We winter camp, and so in the fall, we just car camp. We take all our new gear that we bought, and we make sure it works, and we test it, and we make fun of each other's gear, and some of it might even still have price tags on it. But you better know your gear in action, every piece of gear that you've got before you get out into the country. And just believe me, I've I've nearly lost it at in the middle of a blizzard with zippers that just didn't work. I've got a coat that I just bought from a major manufacturer of serious hardcore mountain climbing gear. This thing doesn't reflect water. I was shivering and wet weeks ago, and I couldn't call customer service at that moment, but I could have been in serious, hypothermic situation because I trusted that company and I trusted that gear, and I had never worn it. Go wear it in the shower. Listen to whatever it takes. Do your reps, do your repetitions, uh, know your gear, and train on it. With maps and compass, it's very smart to have a map and compass, but if you don't know how to use it, what good is it? And of course, also communications and kind of communications backup if anything goes bad. Cameras, give me SOS on your iPhone. There's a tutorial in there, so don't be scared to push that. I mean, there's a way to go through that tutorial and learn how SOS works. It's amazing. I mean, it's satellite. It doesn't rely on anything other than sky space. Unless you're in a Slack canyon, we're gonna get your message. Many of you know this list. It kind of came out in 1974 in Seattle with a group called the Mountaineers. And through their experience, these are the things that can save your life, but also make your life a lot easier and more comfortable. I'm going to talk briefly on a few of these. If you haven't recently, Google what's available with online apps, with apps that you can download on your phone. You can sync your phone with a GPS locator, even if you have a very old GPS. Garmin makes what is it? The Garmin InReach. You can communicate. People back home can see your trail moving as you're running down the road. I don't know if everybody wants that or not. I mean, go fishing had disappeared, but it's very helpful in tough situations. You can text with it. Sometimes you can even talk on the phone with some of the capabilities that they've got. The watches do just about everything now too. And all we need, all 911 needs is some kind of signal in your GPS. One of the things I started doing I realized is when I take a photo of a trail, maybe I'm coming to a fork in the road, picture of it, or take a picture of where my camp is when I get there. It's got the GPS coordinates right there. It's got the time, and you can find your way back. You can find it. You could just you can get home with these things. So next time you get a chance, I just asked them to show you all the new cool stuff. It's a little pricey, but it's all a lot of fun. I climbed Denali, whatever we're going to end up calling it, several years ago in Alaska, and when we were done climbing the mountain, we got to a glacier. And the planes were coming in to pick up onto the glacier to pick up my train famers. There was one man sitting by the medic tent and there was a chair outside with bandages over his eyes. This was a trip way back then. It cost maybe $10,000 or $15,000. A lot of money, especially for kids who saved up from washing dishes or whatever. This guy had gotten there the very first day. It was very easy and Friday. It wasn't summer at all. He looked out on the glacier and became snowblind within hours. Completely snowblind. He's way back home. I have a photo of that guy somewhere at home. Someone had written I think it was a Scottish team or maybe a New Zealand climber team had sign that said, please feed me. I'm poor, please feed me, I'm poor and blind. So um, I don't want to be the brunt of those kind of jokes. Bring your sunglasses, okay? Insulation, cotton kills. Be careful. A lot of so-called sportswear now is beginning to incorporate cotton again. Because it feels good. It looks rugged. Look at Murdoch's, wear. Okay, great stuff. Nothing against Murdoch's, but a lot of outdoors companies are now starting to incorporate cotton into what they do. So just don't go there. Cotton doesn't insulate when it's wet. In fact, what do you call it? Tile or fleece? Fleece doesn't insulate when it's wet either. Wool is a really good one. If you can get some of that new wool that's really thin and is not so scratchy, it's good stuff. Um, I think we're all illuminated on white, so I'll just skip that one. You remember when you pack your first aid kit to think of others and what you need for them? I pack a splint because I know ankles are a very big problem, and I also carry an ace bandage to wrap that up with. Um, but just use common sense and someday you'll use it. Don't worry. Check it every couple of years to make sure it's still okay. Um, this is a weird one. I've always avoided fires personally because I think they're kind of messy. They're not necessarily great for the environment. They take time and they get all smoky and smelly. So, however, I've noticed by being in search and rescue that there's a huge, not only there's a huge psychological factor involved as well as physical. That something other than you warms you up. Fire, anything, a warm rock, anything that you can, do to get your body warmed by something else. It tells your body and your brain that things are going to be okay. It gives you hope. And if you have hope, you can survive a lot more crazy incidents than if you did not. I can definitely tell you that. So bring a fire starter, know how to start a fire, bring some tinder. Okay, just bring some tinder. If not, grab a knife and scrape off, some bark or not bark, some wood. Bark is horrible. Scrape off some wood and into little shavings and make yourself a fire. Especially if you're gonna have to wait a couple hours for someone to find you. Has anyone ever gotten a barb stuck in their eyelid or their hand or yeah, okay. Where's your other hand? Yeah. That's a bad thing. If you've got some of those pliers, you can just snip that barb off. That's great. I snipped off a size 10 hook barb once. It was just fine. It hurt like heck, but it'll work just fine. Um, to being trigger. Not really fashionable right now, but bad situation, sometimes the first thing that'll hit your system and wake you up and get you going again could easily be a Tootsie Roll or a Jolly Rancher or whatever. We need some of that stuff that your kids and grandkids love to eat, okay? Proteins, just a one. If you're going to be at high altitude, protein, what you want to do is you want to limit your protein for several days before going to high altitude. The reason for that is they're finding that there's something through their blood cells that limits its ability to carry oxygen. All right. And we're also learning now to hydrate several days in advance of going to altitude or going on a trip that we're really not observing. I understand the science behind that one, but hydration in advance of your trip is super important. I would also bring some kind of filter and then very small and very cheap, even disposable. Using straws you can carry with you. Which you can find a puddle or even some kind of water way. Shelter kind of goes without saying. But now we've got limited space to put our gear. Because even my things actually help. As much as you can help. And as well as trash, good old trash bags. Um, Do you know if you have a whistle or if you're giving any kind of signal out back for help? What is the pattern? Says it's almost. I'll put you back. It's awesome. Woohoo! Crisis averted. All right, we'll try and get through the next couple slides pretty quickly and wrap it up. But um, let me just say, orientation and awareness again is super important. So when you're approaching and when you're returning, one thing I've learned being in search and rescue: look behind you often. Turn around, look where you've been, look what the view looks like. You could get lost and say, well, I was going down the trail and I took this turn. I didn't remember seeing all this other stuff. Of course you didn't. You're facing the other way. You're not going to see that stuff. This is what it looks like when you're coming back. Okay. So look, anytime there's a kind of a topographical variance or an up or down or a big corner, a big sweeping curve, look around you and find out how you got there. Look, I've been stuck in the willows before, just fishing wherever, half a mile from the road. How did I get here through these willows or this scrub oak? I mean, that can ruin your day. A good point I want to make: reserves and nutrition. This is kind of I do a lot I used to do mostly mountaineering, so big mountains, super high altitude. And there's always a chance someone will fall in a crevasse, and you've got to get together as a team and rescue them and put a lot of effort into that. The line on the rope was never get past 60%. Um, well, keep 40% reserve on your kind of your physical wellness. You're ready to commit 30% to something completely new at any point in time. Never get over 60% exertion. And when you come back, that's when accidents really happen, is on the return. So as you're coming back, think about getting to the car again with 50% of reserves. In other words, you can drive the long drive home, and not run over the fly rod without that. Um, watch your heat and moisture and continue to communicate. Communicate with yourself. Again, remember signs. If you think there's a tricky twist in the road, release some rocks or sticks. I know everybody makes carns nowadays, and it's a real problem. But what you got to do to find your way back. Okay, when this happens, when you get lost, when you're driving more illegal and you're worried about nightfall coming, um, take a breath. The first thing you should do in any situation like this is do an assessment. Take a breath, breathe deep. Uh, look around you. You need the emergency. Nature is not the emergency, okay? The whole world is not out to get you. Yeah, the water might be raining, but you might be soaking wet. It might be thunder and lightning. That's the case of things. It's like when you're doing fishing and you're kind of one with the river. Look around you and notice what's going on and where the coming dangers. Are you the what they call it, maker? from under that is a possible snow slope or mudslide slope above you. Get out of the way of that. Are you exposed? Get out of the exposed area. Assess your mental kind of state of mind. Oftentimes that'll lead to eating and drinking. Because when you're kind of spacing out a little bit. Who should you seek help? Please don't be afraid to seek help. If you're just tired and need a helping hand, by the way, being carried down in a room is very painful. It sucks. You never want to do it. And we all have to do it so that we know how to properly carry other people. But you should call as soon as you realize I'm in trouble. I have something that could get worse. Um, and this is what we do, search and rescue folks. First, let me tell you how it happens. Your GPS, your little alarm system, your phone, your watch, will send a signal, and it will go directly to 911. There's nothing you have to do. 911 through the link with 911. That will then go to the sheriff's office. In the case of Douglas County, the sheriff will assess the situation. They will send somehow that they will tell us if they know it's going to be hairy. And we'll get there in 30 to 60 minutes, more than likely. And that includes with drones, we'll bring searchers. If it's urban, we'll bring a bike. We'll bring all these capabilities and we'll be on the scene within, we'll need to go within 30 to 60 minutes. We'll probably be in an hour to 2 hours. Okay. So it takes a while. It gets back to kind of stabilizing yourself and getting ready for maybe a little in the dark or I don't know, look think. Stop the bullshit. But to kind of stabilize yourself along the way. Meditate. This is what we like to do. We get over people apologizing and say, I'm so sorry, I feel so stupid. I got lost on the trail and I've been on this trail a million times, or I've got my flight out in the river and I never did that one. Um, just do it, okay? Just seek help. The sooner the better. It'll take a lot less of our resources if we can get to you before you become a medical problem. All right, any questions? What I've really attempted to do is just get some reminders out there. You know, summer's coming up. Get your gear ready. Put your mind ready. Do stretches. Do practice casts. Whatever you got to do to be ready to get off the trail if that's what you want to do, and feel confident and secure. Back.
Is that true? I've heard that owning a fishing license gives you one free Flight for Life helicopter ride. Is that true?
Well, let's go. I don't know. Does anyone know the answer to that? Yeah, makes sense. I pay a $5 fee. I think $5 for search and rescue. Well, what's the charge? Okay, I don't think any of the search and rescues in Colorado charge you, so don't hesitate from that perspective. For the helicopter ride, I guess you get what you get a free. Maybe you get a freebie. I really don't know, but yeah. What about the Apple tags for kids to locate a lost child?
Cellular network.
Okay, actually, yeah. Why don't you answer because I'm not super familiar. I'm not just at all. Yeah.
Those tags talk to other Apple cellular devices. So it's not talking to the cellular network or satellite. It's to other cell phones.
Okay.
It wouldn't be helpful.
Oh, I think it would be. I mean, one of the things they're assuming is let everyone know where you're going when you do this, right? Or leave a note in your car or something. That's an assumption. And so, yeah. Right.
How about temporarily? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Question.
So it seems one of the most common injuries that all of us would experience in the backcountry, you mentioned a sprained ankle, a broken bone, broken wrist, broken knee. Those can be devastating and painful if you don't have proper medication. Most physicians would include myself, would prescribe a limited number of narcotic pain medications for to have some hydrocodone, Tylenol, codeine, something like that. And I would strongly recommend that everyone have a few of those along with you, whether for yourself, so you can walk background, right? You have someone left to leave behind, and there's broken your leg, and the worst they can be somewhat comfortable. Yeah, you go for that. Again, we're not going to give you a bucket line, but they'll give you 5, 10, 20, and that's, if you don't know what it's for, on the backcountry or you need some pain medications, most folks are going to be ready to do. And I think it does, um, you can confirm, maybe confirm this too, but speaking for myself, I've also been in rescues. We had a guy with a broken femur. I had a boat bike accident on Rampart Range last year. And this guy, oh my, I think pain can send you into shock, right? But reducing pain can get you back down. Just an extent is that, and it's that, often, with extreme pain, it can send you into shock and people failure. So, space blankets, light, it can be, life-saving. I mentioned splints earlier. Those are really, they're called sand splints. They're really, they're just kind of like tinfoil. They're really thick and they fold in the inner shape you want them to be. They're super lightweight. And so, and they're padded. And you can just throw one of these in your fishing vest or your pack, and chances are, hopefully, you won't ever need it, but they're so easy, and that takes pain away pretty well too if you do it right. If it's not super complicated either, but it takes the pain away just to give somebody something, something so they're not getting banged around, so they're not moving around unnecessarily. And so if they have to extricate themselves, that'll go well. Thanks for that. Good. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions or does anybody have a survival story? How about that? That would be really fun. Okay, no survival stories. Those people aren't here. They didn't survive. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. All right. Another question.
I'm a little surprised you didn't say you should leave note with somebody where you're going, when you're going to be there, et cetera, et cetera.
I should have left myself a note or mentioned that. I think yeah, I've been guilty of not leaving notes before, and I get in big trouble. And of course, that should absolutely be on the list. That's a huge one. I had lots of different flat tops. My birthday was July. I took trailhead, kind of an obscure trailhead, picked up 2 miles, and it started snowing, and it's just a foot and a half in July. We didn't like it, we had blue sacks, but it was miserable. So I got into the car. The car was a cloud about 6 feet high. And a guy was in his pickup truck with a shoveling all this stuff off. And the timing was perfect. And we're like, oh, so there's a looking for a hunting spot for next fall. And I saw the in the car that said we need to be returning. So I thought, well, this guy's going to get out. There's a big mudslide here. So he brought his stuff up, shoveled it out. It's a nice little story, but it can be a lot worse than that, obviously. For sure, if you can. And I wouldn't worry so much about cars, get people breaking in. If you're at kind of well, there are places where I wouldn't do it. Down south, I'm thinking of. But if you leave a note, I wouldn't worry so much about the stuff getting stolen from a car, getting broken into or whatever. My experience has been there's pretty good people out there. That's your call. But definitely leave with one or two people. Leaving, expect to return. And I actually, I texted her and usually she's still sleeping. And I say, that's when you should get worried. So 4 or 5 hours after I really have to get back to the car. And I said if I would have sped the, if that's smart or not. But I don't want her panicking, and I don't want for someone from search and rescue finding me and asking me how I got this or whatever. Or wait. So it's a balance, but really good point. Thank you.
What's the best protocol on bleeding?
So the protocol in bleeding, there's an acronym that we use called MARCH, MARCH. And this is what you look for when you do an immediate assessment for the safety and perhaps life of the subject. The first one is massive hemorrhage. This would be hopefully obvious mass bleeding versus something internal. Now, if it's internal, there's very little that we're instructed to do or can do. I don't know where to go with it. That's bad. Even in a hospital setting, that's really, really tough. But if you see bleeding, find the source of the bleeding. Sometimes it's not so obvious. Sometimes there could be a puncture that goes in and puts an artery much higher than where the puncture wound is. So if I can, we're trained with the tourniquets, and we had a lady trained 2 years ago. Driving down the road, she saw a motorcycle accident, went out of the car. This was on down near Segovia. Out, put the tourniquet on the guy, saved his life. Okay. This is how you will never use a tourniquet. If you have something quick, and you put this in linkage with it, what do you call the fulcrum? Not a fulcrum, but a section that doesn't work. You can shut off the blood from here down. You're not going to find up to 2 hours. 2 hours a minute. You're literally fine. 4 hours, 5, 6 hours. Okay. Well, I don't know about walking out, but I think you can use before you start kind of. Yeah. The other thing you can do if you don't have a tourniquet, which is probably the most instinctive thing to do, is it's called wound packing. So if you get the gauze or something, or you got a clean t-shirt, whatever, pack it in there and cover your weight on it and don't move. Hopefully you got someone that can do other stuff like call for help. And don't bring that up. Don't bring that up for half an hour, at least an hour, perhaps. It could be really, really bad. So just it's pressure. It's a Any other questions? I have put into my first aid kit some powder for bleeding. It's called. You'll find it on or CVS, and you dump it that quick clot. And apparently it works pretty well. I've never tried it. So, all right. No more questions? And for the first time. No one?